Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to What You Want. Thanks for logging on. What's big, beautiful, and starts with a B? Well, I can think of two answers, or just one. Breitling for Bentley. This is the Breitling for Bentley GMT Chronograph, a unique, complicated watch that combines several emblematic elements from the heritages of both Breitling and Bentley, also featuring abundant complexity, watchmaking in the traditional sense, chronograph, GMT, world time, rotating bezel, a unique 30-second chronograph mechanism developed by Breitling itself, and of course the ever-useful date. There's a lot going on, all within a polished 49mm stainless steel case. Let's take a look on the wrist. Okay, first and foremost, there's no two ways about it. This is a big watch. The case was originally designed for the big Navitimers of the late 1960s. At the time, the idea being that a pilot would need bigger indexes, bigger indications to deal with more information in the cockpit. The cockpit of an aircraft and the cockpit of a racing car have a lot in common. And in the modern era, since the 2002 marriage of Bentley and Breitling kicked off in earnest, motorsports has been a hallmark of both. Now, 2003, they won Le Mans together. As of 2015, they're actually racing in the FIA GT Championship again. So it's been a fruitful partnership. And motorsports is the theme here, specifically 24-hour endurance racing. As I mentioned, champions of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Breitling and Bentley decided that, quite frankly, the expression of their respective corporate values and their motorsports ethic in a single watch was going to require a lot. Just as a Bentley is bigger, bolder, and quite brash, the Breitling for Bentley watch, 49mm, is entirely polished. On my wrist, I'm going to say, frankly, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters, idiot to my wrist alive. This is one for the guy who wants a watch after basically concluding that nothing would fit him. Not that anything was too big, but that everything else was too small. I've heard guys complaining that Rolexes are too tiny, that Pateks don't have the presence, don't have the stance, even that 44mm Panerai is beginning to look a little bit skimpy. At 49mm, you're not going to have that problem with this watch. But it's not just a big brute. It's a beautiful brute. And the key there, I really can't overemphasize, is this gorgeous Soleil pattern blue metallic dial. It's the heart and soul of this watch, and surrounded by this complex machine-turned bidirectional rotating bezel, it is a beautiful picture. Applied indexes, you have that lush blue, you have the calibrations of 24 hours and the evocative world time reference ring around the edge. This is a picture not just of beautiful craft instrument construction, but also sort of a chronologue of where Breitling has been. You have the case designed for the big Navitimers of the 60s. You have the world time reference ring, evocative of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, in which Breitling and Bentley were jointly triumphant. And then at the center, you have the traditional Breitling chronograph functions, and that 30-second double-time chronograph originally developed in the early 20th century to make the most of a high-beat movement and allow you to resolve each of the 8 beats per second of the Breitling caliber 47. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this works. First and foremost, let's stop it. Let's reset it. Let's talk about this chronograph. It makes a single sweep of the dial every 30 seconds. Now what that means is there's a bigger span swept for every given second. In each second, you're going to be able to read one of the 8 individual steps of this 4 Hz movement with greater resolution than if the entire dial comprised 60 seconds and it covered half as much space in a given second. So physically, it's easier to read the chronograph to its timing potential, 1/8 of a second. Again, that's a piece of Breitling original watchmaking that's added to the ETA-based movement. Now, a COSC certified chronometer, it's also exceptionally accurate. 42-hour power reserve bidirectional winding. There's an hour. There's also this unique world time feature. In addition to being evocative of the 24-hour motorsports heritage of these two companies, it's highly useful in as much as you can set your reference time at the index at 12. So I'm in Miami, so New York would be my reference city here. You can see the 24-hour hand, we'll get to what else that can do in a moment, is used to judge the time in your reference time zone. So I turn my reference time zone to 24 hours, and then I read the city that I want to basically follow remotely. I read it off the 24-hour calibrated bezel right there, the inner bezel. So I can see if in New York it's approximately 2:30, I can see in Chicago, reading off the 24-hour subdial, or sub-bezel I should say, it's approximately 1:30. Chicago being 1 hour behind New York. Easy enough, intuitive. Again, once you learn to use this watch, just like the Navitime or circular slide rules, it becomes quick, intuitive, and second nature. Now, the other thing that's important about that 24-hour hand is that it is a true independent time zone. I can adjust it to show a second time, or I can adjust it to become an AM/PM indicator for the local reference time, the center hours hand. So there's some versatility built in there. For those keeping score, I've got a chronograph, I've got world time, I've got a second independent time zone if I want it, an AM/PM indicator if I don't. I've got the date, I've got a COSC rated automatic movement, but I've got more because this bracelet down here has another trick that I'd like to show you. And that's one of the best quick adjusts that I've ever seen. Spring-loaded push piece allows you to add up to 10 millimeters of tool-free adjustment for finding the perfect sizing, also adjusting the watch tool-free should your wrist expand or contract during physical exertion, hot weather, if, for instance, you have to fit it over a motorsports driving suit. Hey, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to judge. I'm going to assume the best. The bottom line is that this watch offers a lot of content. As I mentioned earlier, it's big, it's brash, it's bold, but it's not unsophisticated. That starts with the styling of the dial, but it extends to the watchmaking chops, the complexity of the movement, the gorgeous treatment of the dial, that blue sunburst, the applied indexes, the delicate detailing, the interplay of color, right down to the thoughtful, fully milled, quick extension clasp, and the high quality of this conforming vulcanized black rubber strap. Everything about this watch exudes quality. In a lot of ways, it feels like a Bentley. When I close that clasp and I hear that tight snick, I feel like that must be what it's like to slam the door of a Bentley. In my mind's eye, that's what I'm seeing. In my mind's ear, that's what I'm hearing. That's the association I'm making. And really, from Breitling's perspective, that's mission accomplished. This is a love it or hate it watch. I'm not going to lie. At 49 millimeters, it's not for everyone. But if you're that guy who can pull it off, if you're that guy who loves this style, you can't get any better than this. There are some watches out there that are big, that are bold, but are hollow from an artistic standpoint, that are empty from a watchmaking standpoint. The Breitling for Bentley is not that. All of the substance that you would expect from a Bentley motor car, you get in this Breitling for Bentley watch. So check out this Breitling for Bentley GMT Chronograph, 49 millimeters in stainless steel, available on our website, Watch You Want. It is 100% complete with all Breitling boutique boxes, manuals, papers, and accessories. I'm confident that if you're into motorsports, if you're into high-end watches, and you've got a Godzilla wrist, this Breitling for Bentley GMT Chronograph with world time secondary function and 30-second chronograph just might be the watch you want.